Hi everyone, welcome back to Warm Embers. Yeah, it's Tiffany Wolfe here with you. And today my guest is the beautiful and talented Zoe, and she's gonna tell us all about her business, her not her actual business, what's going on, but her actual small business. And she's gonna share with us about her journey. So welcome, Zoe.
Halito. My name is Zoe Rain. I'm from the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, and I'm currently an artist and business owner in San Diego.
Awesome. So Zoe's being modest. She owns Clay and Rain Studios where she does earrings.
Hmm.
And they are amazing. If you haven't
Thank
checked them
you.
out, go on Instagram. And I think you have a Facebook page, huh?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, clay and rain on everything, pretty much.
Okay. Yes. And the intricacies and the beadwork, it is just beautiful, phenomenal.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, I love them. Okay. So when did your business start and how did you come up with the idea?
So I started my business around the end of 2019. Um, it's actually funny. I had a dream about like in my dream there was like someone who had miniature succulent earrings. And when I woke up, I was like, I feel like people would really like that. Like, I feel like I could actually sell that. And I had been doing like some beadwork prior, but like not too, like not on a very large scale at all. But whenever I like had this idea of like the miniature like plants, I remembered like when I was really young, I would see people do like miniature food or miniature like dollhouse stuff from they would make it out of polymer clay. So that's how I got the idea to start using clay. And then, that kind of just led me down the rabbit hole and I saw that there was like a whole this whole niche of polymer clay earrings. And so I started doing that. It really took off like pretty early on and then once we got into quarantine in like 2020, I was like, well, I guess I have all of this time to focus on my business. And it took off even more. And then once everything started opening back up after quarantine, I was like, oh, I don't have to go back to my food service industry job. And I had just been doing it full time ever since.
That is amazing. So there is this idea that as a creative, we're able to tap into kind of like the universe and we get these ideas that come to us
Hmm.
and there's also this idea that the ideas are just like floating around and if we're open to receive them, they come to us and then we take them from ideas that are non-physical into the physical realm. And it
Hmm.
was so amazing to where like I thought of this and I created it. Here it is. It was up
Hmm.
here. So I think that's such a beautiful like illustration of how magical the world can be around us and how when you are sleeping, because sometimes I get ideas when I'm sleeping too, and they would say, "Oh, keep a notebook by your bed, so when you wake up, what
Hmm.
is you can write them down because you don't always
Hmm.
remember."
Hmm.
I love that. I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks. They're very positive and like very a lot of positivity and talking about like manifesting and they
Hmm.
say like when you sleep, you're going back in and connecting with like source energy and the universe, and that's how you get like ideas too, which I think
Hmm.
is pretty cool. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, so the fact that you had that dream come to you and then you created it and then look
Yeah.
now, I mean, that is such a big journey.
Yeah.
Of course, it sounds like it's a straight line to success, but I'm sure, as I like to say, all paths are not linear. They just go up
Hmm.
as you're learning things, right? Like
Yes.
the file papers and
Hmm.
those things. What on your journey, what do you think was the biggest challenge?
I think I think during quarantine and like the very beginning of the pandemic, um, everyone was shopping small, everyone was getting into like crafting. And so honestly, during this time, like the business was booming. A lot of people I mean, I know a lot of people struggled, but a lot of people also had disposable income because of like the assistance we were getting. Um, and because, a lot of people kept working even so they were getting the assistance plus, still working. So a lot of people had money to spend. And now that we're going into a bit of a recession, like that's not really the case anymore. And I think when that first started happening and I was like, okay, like I really don't know where to go from here because it really seems like what I'm doing, my whole niche of like polymer clay earrings is really not like um selling as much. Like I used to be able to sell out in 5 minutes and now sometimes I'm not even making enough to pay rent, right? So that was really a struggle for me because like I just, like I'm an artist, like I wasn't really tapped into like the business side of things. So I'm just like I don't really exactly know where to go from here. Um and I guess there were a lot of ideas that I had that I just never really explored because I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like so much work. But I was like, well, I'm at a point where I'm like, I have to do something. So I think that is when I started incorporating beadwork. Because I was just like, I've always wanted to do this because I used to do beadwork. I love beadwork so much. Um, and so I was like, let me just combine the two, the polymer clay, the beadwork, that, see how people respond to that. And people loved it. Because I think it's very unique. And I think, not a lot of people who do beadwork also do clay. And then even if there are some people who do both, they don't combine it in the same way that I do. Um, so I think that put me in an even like smaller niche, but because of that, I'm able to create something that really has a demand. So it was definitely a struggle, like I would say for like 2 years, but then I really tapped into that.
That is awesome. Yeah, because you're including dentillium, which to me, I started out making dentillium earrings, and I feel like the market got flooded, but everybody's making kind of the same thing,
Hmm.
like tiered. And
Hmm.
the fact that you are adding that new element, I think makes, like you said, you've created this niche that I don't see many people doing that, and that's amazing, which
Hmm.
again, brilliant. You're a business owner,
Thank
artist, creative.
you.
I was talking to a lady and I was telling her like, oh, I want to, she's an older lady, she's a scientist because I worked environmental, so a lot of
Hmm.
my contacts are environmental. So I was telling her like, oh, I want to pursue art, and so she was like, oh, well, you need to know business. She was like, do you
Mm.
know business? And I was like, I don't know business.
Yeah.
And then she was saying, oh, is anybody in your family in business? When I was like, no. She's like, wow, that's a shame because you really need to know business. And I was like, I guess so. So I took a like entrepreneurship boot camp, which was really helpful.
Hmm.
Yes, that's the one thing I think when they say, oh, you're going to be an artist, but you also should know the entrepreneurship and the marketing
Hmm.
and all.
Hmm.
It's a lot, a lot of work. There's that
Yeah.
TikTok sound. It's like I quit my full-time job so I can work 24/7.
Yeah, I quit my 9 to 5, so now I can work 24/7. Yeah, exactly. And I feel that way too, because I work from home completely, so it's just like there's not so much of a separation between like work and like home life. But I feel like I think what I've noticed is that especially like if I'm spending days where I'm like doing a lot of beadwork, like my body tells me like, okay, it's time to put the beads down. So I
Yeah.
think that's how I've been able to find that balance, is just like being in tune with my body and like learning like, okay, like I need to take a break, I need to eat something, I need to drink water.
Yes, and I feel like the time just flies by now. When I was at work
Yeah.
doing data at
Mm-hmm.
10 o'clock and I'd be like doing all my data and I'd be like, it must be like 12. And I look, it's like 10:30. And I'm like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
the day. But now the time just flies by.
Yeah, it's same. Like when I worked in the food service industry, like I would work sometimes like a 6 hour shift and it would feel like it was just I don't know. I think, especially at my last service job before starting my business, um, I was working at a brewery and I was a hostess. Um, but honestly, not a lot of people were coming in to sit down. A lot of people were just going to the bar. So I was just standing there for no reason, it felt like. I felt like it was just not a good use of my time.
Yeah.
And it was like a family-owned business. It was like I opened with them, so I feel like they were not very strict with me. So I kind of just did whatever I wanted up at that host stand. I started beating at the host stand.
Oh,
I started packaging orders at the host stand. I did my taxes at the host stand,
wow.
so I figured out ways to like make the best use of my time. And yeah, definitely now, like I feel like there's not enough hours in the day when it comes to like making art. I'm just like I wish I could keep going, but yeah, I really feel like I need to stop.
Yes. Okay. So speaking of that, you were saying like when your body's telling you to do self-care. Do you have like a self-care routine or something you like to do just to make yourself like reset?
I mean, I like doing all kinds of things. I think like I'm really big on skincare.
Yes.
I've really been getting into that. Um, I I like giving myself like at home pedicures because
Uh-huh.
I'm just like I don't have time to like go in like to a nail salon all the time, but I'm like I can do it at home.
Yes.
Um, I don't know. I just love doing like little things. I love just like sometimes I'll just do my makeup for no reason because
Oh, I
I
like
used to be a
that
makeup artist.
way.
And so I would do like really like crazy makeup looks and I just never do that anymore. So I started recently. I'm like, I want to do something fun. So it's just like another kind of art form, but it's an art form that's just a hobby, as opposed to like something I'm monetizing.
Yeah, that is so cool. I only do makeup when I have to go somewhere, but I
Mm-hmm.
like the fact that just to sit there and do it as a form of creativity and just like now I feel good, like as
Mm-hmm.
something. That's so cool. I didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Really good thing to add. So when it comes to your earrings, you were saying
Mm-hmm.
when you initially started, it was just polymer based, and then you added beadwork,
Mm-hmm.
which added an indigenous element. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we're looking at like traditional porcupine quill versus like contemporary ear
Mm-hmm.
making, I think it is a really good discussion of how do we create our place in American culture with our jewelry or the items that we make that don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily reflect like the cowboy and Indian aesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
Yeah.
people approached you and
Yeah, I think so. Like, it usually comes from non-natives who are really curious and they're just like, oh, like how, like, is this design, like, is this like a Choctaw design? Is these are like your colors or do these flowers mean anything to your tribe? And I'm like, no, not really, um, I like when it comes to my art, I kind of just take inspiration from the things that I personally find beautiful. Like I love flowers. I love like celestial designs like stars, moons. Um and I think as far as like my culture and my earrings, like I wouldn't say there's entirely too much crossover. And as far as like being traditional, like even beadwork wasn't truly traditional, because we didn't have beads. Um, but I think it's just like a good a good way to see like how our art and our styles like evolve over time. Because I know like there are people who really want to keep our cultures alive, of course. And I think there is an avenue for that, but there's also an avenue for being experimental, creating something new, but still something like just beading alone and like the style of beadwork I do is still, indigenous. And just, I mean, even when I was only doing clay earrings, I'm just like, I know that this isn't like traditional artwork by any means, but I'm still a native artist and this is native artwork. I wouldn't consider it traditional native artwork, but there's still, yeah, I think an avenue of modern native art.
yes, I love that. When we have Native American Heritage Month, like there's barely anything on us,
Mm-hmm.
Like I see big billboards for Black history or Black,
Mm. Yeah,
yeah.
Black History Month.
Uh-huh. And
Mm-hmm.
I think this or April was Asian Pacific or something.
May is
May.
usually,
Okay.
yeah. So
Yeah, so
yeah.
I've seen some things which are good. Um,
Hmm.
and I think we should be on the level to where like we open an ad and there's like somebody collaborating with a native artist.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of brands out there probably want to make the connection, but they don't know where to go because maybe traditional cowboy and Indian isn't their aesthetic, you know.
Yeah.
Want to make sure, like, let's say, I don't know, Coke or somebody wants to reach out to you and be like, hey, or some type of candy because your pastel colors, you know,
Hmm.
let's collaborate. I think the fact that you are a contemporary artist would speak more to their brand, you know.
Hmm.
I think it's important to have your brand in those spaces and being contemporary.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, I think so. And, I think, like you were saying, when like non-natives think about native culture, they do typically think the cowboys and Indians, like the Southwestern kind of vibes. And I think it really does a disservice because it's like I think they think that like we're not modern in any way. Like we even like I think that gives them the sense of like, oh yeah, natives aren't still a people that are like here today, you know? Um, I've met countless people who have said like, oh, natives are still here. And I'm like, yeah, it's more
Uh-huh.
likely than you think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Creating our own space in like you said, American culture or just like in media. I think that's like a big thing that I've always wanted to do. Um, I know you wanted to talk about like my streaming and
Yes.
that. So I think that was like the main thing is like when I got into that, I was just making my earrings on stream and I would play games, but um like you were saying, like the different months, so November is Native American Heritage Month,
Yes.
and I stream on Twitch, and they did a big thing for, Black History Month, Women's History Month, but then when it came to Native American Heritage Month, they did nothing. So, a bunch of us native streamers, we all got together and we were like, let's make our own like video. So we did a video of just like a bunch of streamers, like highlighting them, like introducing themselves, saying what they do, and like we put it all together. Um, I would say I think this was when 2023, I think,
Okay.
and or maybe 2022. But we put it out and it got a lot of attention. Twitch saw it. They reached out to us and they said, like, you guys should start a stream team. And that's how we created the Four Directions.
Oh,
That's the stream team name.
yeah.
And yeah, our whole thing has been about like creating a space for native creators on a platform that typically doesn't have a lot of representation,
Yes.
you know? So we, yeah, that was our big thing. And we really wanted to, a lot of streamers do a lot of fundraising.
Oh,
Um, but it's like the same organizations you hear over and over again that streamers will fundraise for. So our biggest thing was let's get native organizations, charities on this platform so that we can raise money for them with our streams.
that's awesome. Yes, I think that we kind of like are beating the bush with the same, not to say that they don't need money, but like it doesn't allow for growth of other nonprofits and
Mhm.
other creators if we're really going back to the same sets of nonprofits and focusing on the same influencers
Mhm.
because our community is already small. And then
Mhm.
the fact that your Four Directions Twitch stream is out there, that is so cool. Like,
Mhm.
but yeah, we definitely need to expand. Like when I launched into thinking about starting as an artist, I and started a business, I started looking for funding. And there's so much for Black Americans. Like they didn't even need bookkeeping. They're just like, if you have a business, you have an idea, we want to fund you. It was like 50,000, like lots of money. And then Latina and Asian Americans also it
Mhm.
was at the level of Black Americans, but it was at
Mhm.
a good amount, like 10, 20,000. And then if you're Native American, they're like, we need 5 years worth of bookkeeping. We need to know
Oh
that
my
you're
goodness.
doing, yes. I don't know if you had looked into
Mhm.
business funding for
No,
business,
not
but
like specifically like in like the native, like for native, but no, interesting.
yeah, so it was like very minimum, and none of them would just give you money on an idea. You had to have proof that your business was
Mm-hmm.
already, um, I guess, a little bit profitable, or you had been in business for a while. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big disparity, from
Yeah.
people in the Black community to be like, what are your ideas? We want to fund you, to like Native American, like, oh, well, we want to make sure that you are doing a good job. So
Mm-hmm.
disparities there. But again, I think that's just because lack of education that we are still here. We
Mm-hmm.
are small business owners. We are trying to make a difference in our community, in American culture. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that getting your platform out there of the Twitch streamers, is there another Native American group, or is just yours, or
So there are a few different ones.
okay,
But yeah, we were one of the ones that like we worked directly with Twitch.
okay,
And they whenever we like made it known like, hey, we're not happy that you did nothing for Native American Heritage Month. They
yes,
were like, hey, like, would you guys want to do like a front page stream? Um, and we will, pay you for it.
oh,
And like that
good,
was that was really crazy. Like, that honestly, like as you were kind of saying, like how like with like the grants, it was just like, oh, here's like what's your idea? Okay, here's the money. That's kind of how it felt. Like, and it really felt like it's just like, oh wow, like um it feels like, yeah, this is a thing that doesn't usually happen for us, but I think it's because we all got together. We all like were loud and like made it known and like we we made it so they couldn't ignore us,
yes,
essentially.
that is the okay. Everybody needs to lock in. Like, it didn't exist. You guys saw a need, and you created content, and then they took
Hmm.
this. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
deal.
We were
Yeah.
pretty much like, we'll do the heavy lifting ourselves, I guess. And then, all they have to do is give us the platform, give us, we didn't even initially ask for any like compensation, but they were just like, here you go. And we're like, oh, that's new. That's a new feeling for us.
That is awesome. I love that. I love that you guys did that. And I hope you guys go on for this year and do bigger things, because
Hmm.
we need that in the community. We need that in the.
Hmm.
So when you're streaming, is there a certain game you guys play, or
Um, well, so each streamer, they all kind of do their own thing. Sometimes we get together and do like group activities and like group games. Personally, like when I first started streaming, it was just because I was making my earrings on stream, which I had no idea. Like, I would go on Twitch to watch people play games, and a friend of mine, he was just like, "You should stream." And I was like, "What am I gonna stream?" Like at the time, I didn't play any games really, so I was like, "What am I gonna stream?" And he was like, "Just make your earrings." I was like, people watch that? And he was like, yeah, there's a whole category for artists.
no
And
way?
so I looked and yeah, there was people doing digital art, there was people making like crafts, just like painting, doing makeup, like you could do anything on Twitch. Honestly, you can do people will watch it. It's so interesting. But I was like, okay, let me start. And yeah, that like went really well. And then I was like, let me play some games here and there and some like fun, easy ones.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I haven't been streaming too much lately just because as far as like the equipment, like it's a lot of equipment. Like I had two cameras, I have my mic, I have two big lights.
Uh-huh.
And I live in a one bedroom apartment, so it was all just in my room and it was
Uh-huh.
taking up like half of my room and I was like I can't live like this. So I was like I need to wait until I can change my setup, like have things that are smaller, more condensed, so I could have just like a little area, but it costs a lot of money. So I'm like, once I build that up, then I'll start streaming again.
All right. I hear you though. Like I live in a little res house and behind me I actually got a dress form and then my table is full of beads and I have a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
projects laid out. So and like
I
you can't see it, but there's a bunch of stuff for
Yeah,
this is
I
behind
know.
me.
It's so hard when you do so many different art forms because it's just like, oh, I need a space for this, a space for that, you know. So ideally we want to get like a two-bedroom apartment and we can have one room that's just like a studio room. 'Cause yeah, like I recently got a sewing machine. I've the only thing I've made is a ribbon skirt. Um, I actually wore it to like the powwow where I saw you, but um yeah, I've made a ribbon skirt and then I haven't reused it in a while because I feel like I always just like jump to like so many different projects and different things. And of course, there's my business that I really have to focus on. But I love doing digital artwork. I've always wanted to design like stationery, stickers, pins. And I mean, now that would be definitely hard to do with like the tariffs going on, but it's still something that I hope to do one day.
Yes, I think you should. Because I feel like people who are in your community, I took this like I said, small business boot camp, and they discussed how when you have customers, that you have this range of like your superstar customer that whatever you put out, they're gonna share, they're gonna like, they're gonna try and buy
Mm-hmm.
it, they're gonna tell everybody about it. Like that's your superstar customer. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have the passive customer that likes to look at your stuff, but they don't really purchase it, uh,
Mm-hmm.
or interact or but they like kind of it, but they're just like, okay, but they're on the fringe. So, but most customers are kind of in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like with earrings, I was starting to do like 80, $90 earrings. But then I felt uncomfortable pricing them out just because I wanted to make them accessible. But
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
I had people not buying them because there's also this people think like, oh, if it's too cheap, it must not be good quality.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. Yeah, you have to have that sweet spot, find that pricing sweet.
Yeah, that's actually something I've been talking about recently because so recently here in San Diego we had the Indian Gaming Convention.
Oh yeah.
And I got to meet the brothers that do Thunder Voice Hat Co.
Yes. Okay.
And they were all so sweet, and I was showing them like my earrings, and they were really excited about it. And they asked me, they're like, "How much do you charge?" And usually for like my bead and clay earrings, they're usually around like 200. And they were like, "What?" Like they were like, "Double it." And I was like, "Double it? That's crazy." But that ha has been something that I've struggled with because,
Yeah.
um, yeah, like my earrings, when I make like a pair of earrings, they take like multiple days
Yes.
even to just finish one pair. So it's just like if I want to like pay myself fairly, I do have to charge. I mean, I think I am a little like underselling myself a bit when it comes to like labor costs. But yeah, I do want it to be accessible, especially because, like within our community, like not a lot of people have $200 to spend on earrings. I don't even have like I wouldn't even be able to buy my own earrings.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think about that a lot. So I think that is also why I want to do more like digital stuff. So
Yes.
make a lot of things like a variety of things. So it's just like, yeah, maybe you can't afford like the $200 earrings I can do, but you can definitely afford like a $3 sticker or a $10 pin. Or I also try to make some earrings like because most of my earrings now are the clay and bead, but I do some that are just clay that are definitely at like a much lower price point than the clay and beads. So I try to have something for everyone. And then when it comes down to it, even if they're not able to purchase, they are still viewing your art. So they are still getting something out of, following you and like keeping up with you. So I think that's really nice that, I think about like a lot of like my customers, some of them have followed me from the very beginning. Some of them have made like 20 orders, and it's just, yeah, it's really sweet, like the community that I've like created.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, when I started streaming, I think that's when I first really got to really engage with the people who have been following me for a really long time. Um, because, whenever you're streaming, people are chatting with you in real time. So it's like really, I was able to get to know my customers and have even like some of them have become my friends. One of them, my friend Nikayla, um, she had been following me for a very long time and then would always watch my streams and we'd always talk. And then just recently last summer, she came to visit me and stayed with me for a weekend. So it's just really crazy how you like can make these connections and like make your own community. And yeah, it's really nice. I know people are really scared about like meeting people off the internet, but that's honestly how I've met the majority of my friends, That's how I met Najoni. Like yeah, it's really fun. Got to
So
be cautious, but still, it can be really rewarding.
that is so cool. I want to see you launch it to like influencerhood where you could do like little meet and greets. Have you seen that where they go and people pay and you have lunch and
Hmm.
yeah, I want to see you do that. That would be awesome.
That would be a lot of fun. It's so funny, like, because everyone, like, a lot of like the people that I've met through streaming or just through my like business, they're all over, the world essentially. But it's honestly I feel like it's pretty impressive how many people I've actually got to meet, like not even just like from my business, but like through like native Twitter. I've met so many people just through that. Like I know, Brittany, she's been on the podcast, like we were just in a little like cute native auntie group chat on Twitter, and now we're like close friends and like she has stayed with me and we've been like she's visited and I've had so many connections like that I would have never been able to make if it wasn't for just like taking a chance and meeting someone that I've met like through Twitter or through Instagram or through Twitch.
That is so cool, especially in the digital age, how Native people are able to create community across platforms. I think that's beautiful. I guess we could talk about the plagiarize of work.
Hmm.
Okay.
That, yeah, that honestly hasn't been happening to me as much recently, I don't think. But so I think when I started doing clay work, like my earrings, I kind of started before the big boom of like polymer clay, like just before, because I started right at the end of 2019. But during quarantine, everyone wanted like a hobby, a craft, something, or wanted to start a small business. So tons and tons and tons of people started doing polymer clay. And I think with that big boom, like came a lot of people who were stealing designs, and I would see it all the time. Literally, if I just typed in polymer clay earrings to Twitter and scrolled, I would be able to see like, oh, there's one, there's one, there's one. And at first, like it really bothered me. Um, and I would call people out or I would like message them and be like, hey, like this is obviously like a copy of my design. And I would notice that the same thing would happen every time, is that they would just tell you, like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't copy you. I've never seen your design before. Even if I could find proof, like, I would be like, oh, but you follow me and you replied to this post. So I know that you've seen it. I know that you liked it. And now you made something that looks almost exactly like it. Um, so, um, yeah, but still, like 90% of the time, they would never admit to it, right? So it's just like, okay, so then where do you go from there? And like, yeah, you could like call them out and then people are going to like attack them, but that's also not what I want, because that's just mean. Um, and I don't think it really gets you anywhere. Um, but I think what I realized is that even if people were copying my designs, they still honestly weren't as good as mine, in my opinion. So I'm just like, honestly, is this hurting my business? Not really. Like, someone copying me is not getting in the way of me making a sale.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm just like, if I see it, I see it. I just keep scrolling. I think I would feel differently if I saw someone. Actually, I have seen someone copy kind of like my beadwork style. It was actually someone that I knew personally with someone I went to high school with,
Oh
and
no.
she's not native as well. So I'm just like, oh, someone who's non-native is taking my idea of like polymer clay and beadwork, and it's like the same kind of like style. And I'm like, it just feels so weird because it's like not only is this like a copy of my like not it wasn't like a copy of like a direct copy of like a design, but it was just like the same style. And I was like, oh, that's so weird, especially coming from a non-native. Um, I didn't say anything to her, but I was just like, oh, like I guess that's something I have to like keep in mind is that I might start seeing that again. Because I think there was a long period of time where, like a lot of people weren't doing polymer clay earrings anymore. So, you know, I was like, okay, I haven't seen anyone copying me in a while. But now that I'm doing something new and unique, I'm like, oh, that might start happening again. And it is going to feel weird, especially with beadwork, because I feel like because it is still tied to like my culture, it's like, oh, it's not like you're just taking a design. It's like you're taking something that's a little deeper than that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's so interesting to have a non-native be like, I'm just going to start doing this. You know,
mhm.
like,
Yeah, I think that's such a I know it's like a really debated topic about like non-natives doing beadwork and because a lot of different cultures do beadwork and of course, like with seed beads specifically, but I think like when you see a certain style, you're like, that is kind of like a native style as opposed to like this other style where it's just like, oh yeah, like I've seen a lot of different cultures do that. Um, and I don't know. Yeah, it's very interesting. Like when I see non-native beaters who are like beating in the style of like other native artists, like I'm just like, I don't know how to feel about this,
I know,
but
I don't know either. I was at a conference and this girl was doing beadwork and she was really light complected. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know if she's native or not. Like, because she looks like white, but
mhm,
I have cousins who look white that are,
mhm,
so I'm like, I don't know. So I didn't say nothing. And then so she's clearly making like native design beadwork. And then she said, oh, I'm not native. But my students in my class want me to start doing this. And I teach at a native school.
mm.
My brain's like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah.
And nobody said anything because it was a room full of native people. I think we all were
Mhm.
just like, oh, we don't know how to feel about this, but as
Hmm.
long as she's not saying I'm native and
Yeah. I think I think like it's not something where I'm gonna be like, you can't do this, you're not allowed to do this, but it's like, okay, I'm not gonna buy from you. Of course, I'm going to choose an actual native artist to get my beadwork from, you
yeah.
know. I know a lot of like artists overseas will even make like regalia, and I'm like, oh, and like sell it to natives
Oh,
here, and I'm like, oh,
wait, I think I
oh,
did hear about that. One of the big powwow people had bought from somebody overseas. I remember that was a big
mm-hmm.
like little thing
Yes.
moment. Yeah, that's
So that's yeah, it's very interesting. Like in other countries, they kind of have this obsession with like native culture. And because it's like and it's much different than like non-natives in the US who are trying to like, I don't know, be into native culture for some reason. Like when it's overseas because they have like pretty much no experience with like actual native people. Like they just have this weird idea in their head of what native culture is. And I think I remember there was like certain like a book series I think about like natives that was really popular in other countries. So it's just like that is kind of what started this whole obsession. And I don't know, it's so weird to see.
that
Um,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's, like, well, whatever. Like you said, it's as long as you're focusing on your sales, it is disappointing, but at the same time, like taking legal action, like, is that a good use of your time when
Yeah.
the only person producing all this stuff? And I like to
Yeah.
say, like, we are the creatives. Like, we continue to, like, if you're still trying to master that, I've already gone on and did four innovations to that design.
Mm-hmm.
For, step four, well, you're still
Yeah.
one that
Yeah.
initially started with,
Exactly. And I think also, with like copyright and like legal action, like it's so hard to actually prove, right? Especially when it comes to handmade things, because it's like, with digital art, you can put it into the computer and like figure out exactly if something was copied or not. But when it comes to handmade artwork, it's so much different. Especially, like usually it's not super direct copies, but it's still like, oh, you kind of took this and you kind of took that and you kind of.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, like there would be no sense in taking legal action. And yeah, I have had people like, because I'll post in like beadwork groups like on Facebook, and I've had people in the comments like tag their friend and be like, "Oh, can you make me earrings that look like this?" And I'm
Yes,
like,
I've
or
too.
or you can buy them from me because I'm the one posting them here.
Yes.
Or I'll have people like, yeah, like share it, but like in the caption they'll be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna try to make something like this next." I'm like, it's so weird to say it like directly to the artist, right? Like I'm going to copy you. Um, and
That's
again,
cool.
like, yeah, exactly like you said, like it's just like, okay, copy me, like it's not gonna be the same. It's not gonna be probably like I've never seen someone copy me and it was like better than my design, like original design. So I'm like, honestly, I'm not that upset about it anymore. But it is just, yeah, kind of annoying, I guess, when people will say it directly to you and you're like, "Hi, I'm here. Like, I can read what you're saying."
Yes, I've had that happen. Okay, so on Facebook, this is funny. I was showing me these ads, and this white lady, she was blonde, she was older, like super short hair, super thin. Uh she was dressed like Western style, and she had like this beaded bracelet. So it didn't say whether a native artist did it.
Hmm.
Just like, and it was definitely native inspired, I guess, because the
Hmm.
color and the design.
Hmm.
She's like, look at my bracelet, look at the beads. They're cut a certain way, they're hand stitched. And she did like a whole like 5 minute little presentation. Like the colors represent this and blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And I was like, maybe that's what we need to be doing. Like, because I don't do that. I don't be like, look at my earring. I took 2 hours on this.
Hmm.
Buffalo bone. It was sourced from where, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, hey, here's my earrings. You want to buy them?
Yeah, no, that's what I do too.
Uh-huh.
And I think honestly, like with small businesses nowadays, you have to be making short form content like TikToks, Reels, and I hate it. Like I don't like making short form content because, my dad is a filmmaker. He does video editing, all of that. And so I think watching him and do him and his work, like when it comes to like doing videos, like I also feel very much like a perfectionist. So it's like I'm gonna spend all day making this 30-second video. That
Yes.
doesn't seem like a good use of my time, but sometimes it does really well, and then you get a lot of attention, and you're like, oh, maybe it was worth it. But I don't know. Like I think like whenever I'm seeing like people doing like beadwork videos or just like art, any kind of art, they always have such like a nice space, a nice like my space is a disaster. Like it looks like a mess. Like I have things everywhere. Like I'm like this doesn't look good. So I'm like I don't think I can make a little cute video or else I would have to clean the whole area, do all of this and it takes me so long, and especially and then there's like lighting and just like if I'm using natural light the sun's gonna go down by the time I'm done with this. So it's not my forte by any means, but it is really unfortunately what is really helping small businesses. Like I've seen small businesses blow up overnight because one TikTok, went viral. And that's honestly kind of what happened to me, not with like a TikTok, but it was like a tweet. Like I posted a before and after because I used to do these big clay slabs and I would do like a whole design on it and then I would cut the pieces out. So I did a whole like before and after of like this like bee like honeybee like slab um and then the finished earrings and I posted that and I was like but like the before and after And that just blew up on Twitter one day. And I was slowly growing,
Yeah.
but once that like blew up, I gained like 10,000 followers overnight.
Wow.
And yeah, it was crazy. And then that is really what made it so that I could do this full time. So it's just like sometimes it is just luck, I feel like.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I saw a person say their formula that they've been doing research was like create content, create content, create content, and then like everything's swirling and then it just like meets and then explodes.
mhm.
It sounds like you were creating content, and then it was just that perfect timing and it exploded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like on all these social media platforms with all the different algorithms and whatnot, you never know like what is going to work. And like on TikTok, I would make like my earring videos and they would do okay. But then one day I was like, you know what? I feel like sitting down, doing my makeup. I was talking about like modesty culture in like the native community because I saw this post on Facebook that was just like, oh, these girls wearing crop tops with their ribbon skirts. Someone needs to teach them something. It's so embarrassing. And I was like, that's such a mean way to like go about talking about that. And so I just was having this whole like discussion. So I was just doing my makeup, talking about it. It was a pretty long video. And I was like, I don't think anyone's gonna sit down and listen to this. But that video blew up.
Oh wow.
And I had people in the comments were like, I'm not native. I have no idea what you're talking about. But I sat down and listened to the whole thing. And I was like,
Wow.
what? And then that's where I got followers from on TikTok. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the formula is exactly of what people want to see from me. But I'm like, I guess I'll just try a bunch of different things, see what sticks. And I think, especially with short form content, it's just like you have to just keep going, and just not everything, most of the things are not going to do well, but you might get that one that does. And you never know which one it's going to be.
Yeah, that is correct, right? That's so true. As long as you just start, just get out there. And I know
hmm
it's cringe, but just start,
hmm
whatever your idea is, because we need more natives in the spaces.
Yeah, and I think there's so many things that I've wanted to do in my life where I'm just like, again, it's like the perfectionist thing where I'm just like, oh, I don't have the right thing for this because I've always wanted to do like YouTube videos because I love long form content. Like that's the kind of content that I prefer.
Oh,
Um, and so I've like, oh, I've always like, especially when I did makeup, I was like, I want to do like makeup videos, but I'm like, oh, I don't have a good camera, I don't have a good mic, I don't have a good background. Um, and then once I finally got all those things, it's just like, oh, short form content is big now. And I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know. But
well,
I wish I would have just done it. Because there are so many people on YouTube when they first started, like their videos did not look good, did not sound good, whatever. But over time, they built something. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have gotten into it a
used to,
while ago. And I still can. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
because like Nicole Guerrero, are you familiar?
Yeah.
I started following her when she was in her apartment, and
hmm
the video that got me was she was dyeing her hair box dye red, and from there I was like, I love this girl, and I would started following her, and then she became like a huge influencer, and then
hmm
I love Sahari or something. I don't know if you know her, but she's a Mexican Latina girl. And I started following her back when she started doing makeup tutorials, and now she
hmm
does like whole lifestyle vlogs, and
hmm
she goes on these huge brand trips and stuff. So
hmm
yes, you need to get in there and
I know.
because I was Googling so I wanted to put on a YouTube video, and I do a lot of fashion research. I do like fashion, like Gucci, when did it start? Oh my gosh. Dior, the Resort Collection 2025. Immaculate. I watched that like twice because it was very Vivian Westwood. Like
hmm
the designs were amazing. So I was like, ooh, like let me see what's on Native American fashion. And it was like, I don't know, 12 videos. And then the rest were like AI generated.
Mm.
I was like, we need more content. And I'm sure
hmm
makeup, Native American makeup. And the thing I think I came across a couple of YouTubers, but they kind of just fall off, like they
hmm
have like maybe 10 videos and then they're done. They never do it again.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. Like,
Yeah. Because I think when I was doing makeup, like that was my goal. I was like, I want to be a makeup like influencer, a makeup like a beauty guru. But I realized like after watching them over time, I'm just like, oh, it really is like you have to constantly kind of be like battling for like relevancy. And I'm just like, I don't know if I want that, like I kind of want, and like there are like the ones who just make what they want to make and like, and people still love it. And I'm just like, that is what I would hope to tap into one day
yes.
is like just doing exactly what I want to do, not like what's trending, what's relevant, just whatever I want to do. And people just like it and they like me. And that's what is keeping the channel or whatever it is I'm doing alive.
Yes. Well, you're very likable and your
Thank you.
stuff is amazing. You have true talent. So I'm just happy to be here with you to do three rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So are you reading any books right now?
Um, I'm not currently reading any books. I have a few that I really want to start. Um, it's actually kind of funny. I have the gender bent version of Twilight
Oh,
because I love Twilight so much. Like, honestly, I think the books are really not that bad. Um, and was just like, I want everything this woman has written that she has put out. And if I had no idea until recently she did a gender bent version of Twilight, and I think that's such a funny concept. I've heard it's not that great, but I'm like, I will read anything that she puts out, honestly. So I'm like, I'm ready for it. Yeah, I just haven't gotten the time to read it.
that's so cool. So you're her super fan. Whatever she puts
Yeah.
out, you're gonna be there. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could do a brand deal with any company, who would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. Mm-mm-mm. Ooh, I think Selkie.
Oh,
The dresses, yeah, I feel like sometimes when I see their designs, I'm like, I feel like I have earrings that also like look exactly like that or would go so well with that. So I feel like that would be a um, really good combo. Um, there's also like a few designers who are kind of like similar, like they make dresses like there's Ririka Matoshi and her sister Tu Tuta Matoshi. I don't know if I'm saying their names
no,
right.
I'm not but that
I don't know if you've seen their dresses like that strawberry dress that went viral.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like I could make some earrings that would go really well with that too. So I love designers, any kind of like brands or designers that do really like kind of like quirky, fun fashion because I feel like my designs would go so well with their dresses.
That is perfect. Speaking of knockoffs, I'm like, I got one on Amazon. But I didn't know I saw it. I was like, oh, look. And then I started receiving videos of what it was. But of course,
Mhm,
this one is just like one layer, where that
mhm,
dress is actually multi-layer and there's a lot of work that went into it. That's why they were so.
mhm,
But I love Selkie. You guys would be perfect together. And
mhm,
she's woman-owned small business. It would be perfect.
mhm.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Okay, and then who did you look up as a role model?
You know what's funny is I actually recently had a job interview, and the owner of the business, he asked me for my three role models. And like because he was like, oh, he was like, I have a fun last question. And he was like, who are your three role models? And I just like blinked out. And I was just like, sorry, there's a garbage truck outside. I don't know if you could hear it, but I just like blinked. I was like, oh, I guess I've never thought about this before. But I asked him, I was just like, does it have to be a real person? And then he was like, I guess not. And then I was like, okay, then Ellen Ripley from Alien.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, like I like Alien is probably one of my favorite movies and
Uh-huh.
she's just one of my favorite characters of all time. I named my cat after her, Ripley. And I'm just like like I love that movie because it's just like, yes, it is very much like women empowerment because like, like of her character, but it's also not like it's not too on the nose. It's not too like it feels very natural,
Yeah,
to have like a really strong woman in this movie. And so I think that's always what I loved about it.
yeah, that is such a good answer. Thank you. Because
Yeah.
in that time period, we didn't really have heroines.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the villain who's the queen also. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, so that's awesome. Well, Zoe, I totally appreciated your time on Warm Embers today. And I loved chatting with you. And I hope that you get that Selkie collab or Native American Heritage Month and a big
Mm-hmm.
somewhere because you deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've had a lot of fun.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. We'll go to
Bye.